for this very late start to our stream tonight. We are having all sorts of technical difficulties on our end. I think it's because you went on vacation, Mike.
On vacation, so that's, and I gotta also turn off this volume on here because otherwise it's gonna start bleeding. Okay, so yes, I am on vacation, family reunion in Branson, and of course all my computer stuff that I would normally have hooked up. So thank you all for everyone who's joined so far today, and hopefully we can kind of get through this.
We will rise above our difficulties to conquer as our ancestors before us.
Our ancestors on Zoom.
Yes.
Watch,
I think Johnny and Brooke were having like crazy technical difficulties last week too. So I think it's just all over. It's just all over the place right now, man. It's bad. Don't know what's going on. It's just the way things be.
Yes.
Well, are you having at least a good time out there?
Great time. We went to we just went downtown for a bit. Got a brand new Dungeons and Dragons Turvis. Give me just a... I really want to show this thing off. Brand new Turvis from Dungeons and Dragons. And it's, of course, with the can you see that? The D20 on the back. And so it's really, 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 really cool.
Oh, that's awesome!
Very, yes. Aiden already has his, just got the D20s on it, and so that's actually my third Turvis.
Nice.
So I absolutely love this thing. So.
Nice, good. I'm glad. Let's say. It's always good to find new random merchandise.
Yes. And then we went to the little 5 and dime, and there were D20 salt and pepper shakers. Like, I can't. But there's also D20 light, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. But it's like, so I ended up just buying some magnets.
Nice.
But very, very cool. And at some point, we're gonna get there's a Branson board game cafe, but it's only open on. It's not open Tuesdays and Wednesdays, so we're gonna go there. So we're gonna go there on Thursday.
Huh. That's neat.
Yeah. And there's a comic book shop called Cosmic Force that sells miniatures and D&D books, tons of miniatures like Reaper, Wizards of the Coast, lots and lots. So
just all the good stuff.
It's really good. Considering it's basically a comic book shop, it's pretty amazing.
That's good. Yeah, I was saying it's always a good time when you can find some cool stuff on vacation. Well, Mr. Cross, I actually managed to get through to the end of chapter 3.
There you go.
So, we can talk about as many of the domains of dread as you'd like to talk about tonight.
All right. I've read through it. I think I've got as far as my notes go, down further into the other domains.
Mm-hmm.
Where did we leave? Did we finish with Cardicus?
We did. Yeah. According to my notes, we should be tonight we're going to be talking about Lamortia to start off with.
Yeah. Lamortia always fun.
I think you've stated that this is kind of one of your favorite concepts.
It is. Love it because so Lamortia it's the Frankenstein storyline.
Sort of Frankenstein, but slightly to the left.
It is, but I love it. It's a gender swapped Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
But my favorite part of it was although they gender swapped Dr. Frankenstein, they did not gender swap his partner, her partner now.
Right, to say in this case it would be her partner.
Right. You make it because usually when you gender swap something like this, you're like, well, if the man's going to be a woman now, then the woman has to be a man. And they went, no, just because Dr. Frankenstein's now a woman does not mean that her partner has to be a man now. And I love,
Exactly.
like, okay, that's fantastic. They are. I think Wizards of the Coast is finally realizing that, you know what, you can have same sex relationships, and it's okay,
Yeah.
And so I was really excited about this, but then still the Dr. Frankenstein character, Victor Bordenheim, still just as twisted as ever.
Still just as twisted and terrible as our wonderful, lovely, traditional
Yeah,
Victor von Frankenstein.
still just as tormented by the fact that his love, he couldn't save her,
Mm-hmm.
uh, that she's working to do everything she can to try and get her back, but not being able to succeed.
Right.
And
Well, and it's also a question of, I mean, in the story itself, it's kind of a question of, um, is she even really like, is Victra trying to get back her lost love, or is she trying to get back the unbreakable heart
yes,
that she has lost? It's the
right.
she's lost the two things that she cares about, and it's a question of, does she really want the which one of those does she really want back? And so that I think is a very interesting question to explore.
That's really where the torment comes in.
Yes, that's her, because I mean that's literally her. Um, that is her greatest thing, is that she basically, um, Dr. Mordenheim, she considers herself better than everyone and everything. Like every other person is just flesh to her, and is just a vehicle for her to further her greatness. So yeah, like you get to kind of pull that in a little bit, and
Yeah.
get some of that going on.
And
Um,
it's just looking for the heart, then her love is basically false,
mm-hmm.
and which is also torment as well, because she realizes she's not. It's not about the love. She yeah. There's so much that you could really dig into with that character, and
Oh
I
yeah.
think that's why when so much the Dark Lord in this one you could really have a really good time with. And I thought the brain swap adventure, there's a mention of a swap adventure where it'd be a really good use of the survivors that are in the later on when they have the survivor mechanics.
Yeah, but say we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that a little later once we finally
Yeah,
that get to chapter 4. And we can talk about that and kind of compare that to Tasha's, um what is it in Tasha's, the companion system. So
the sidekick.
yeah, the sidekicks companion system. So we can kind of compare it to that a little bit, see how it builds upon that a little bit. I think, yeah, the other thing I kind of put in my notes for Lamortia is just like, this of course is the land of questionable bioethics,
Yes.
because the question always kind of comes up is, you know there's so much of horror that it's about fighting death and like fighting fate, but there is the potential for, because I personally would like to do an adventure that explores more with, Elise, the
Hmm.
woman who carries the unbreakable heart, because sometimes, being forced to continue on and being forced to continue living against your will, that can be so much worse
Yeah.
than just, having to deal with death itself. Um so yeah, I like, there's some of the things in Lamortia that I like. I would say that medical bioethics
Mhm.
questions are one of those that they fascinate me and they terrify me all at once.
Yes. Great. It's a great, when what do you do in that situation?
Hmm.
As it looks, you look on today's use of again, it's a great reflection of us right now and who we are as a society right now. Yeah.
Yep.
Plus, use steampunk stuff is always good.
Do what?
Steampunk stuff, constructs, and things like that.
Oh yeah,
It's
I
a
must
great idea.
say you're all into that. I don't know how I feel about the brain in a jar though. That ups the ick factor for me a little bit. Just
Oh yeah,
no,
the
thank you.
brain is very disturbing.
All right. So next up would be Mordant, the domain of the haunted.
I love this is the true ghost story. The haunting where you've got Wilfred being tormented by his wife and his daughter that he killed, and he thought, well, then I could just die and everything will be fine. And then he gets haunted, but there's
Oops.
so like being dead is not necessarily the end in this one.
Yeah, let's say this is the other side of if you literally fighting death itself. No, this is the other side of you died, but you can't rest. And I liked that. I like how it did state that like this is the land where nothing changes because no one, even if you die, you don't really die. You linger and you are forced to. I think I put in my notes. This is definitely a good twist on what I refer to as the working afterlife.
Yeah. Yes.
Because I don't know if you're familiar with like the tropey movies and TV shows where it's like the afterlife is just basically the same thing as this life. It's got a weird like capitalistic system where you're forced to like work to pay off your soul debt. So yeah, so the fact that like yeah, if you die in Mordant, your soul is trapped in Mordant and you can't actually rest unless you're willing to just meander off into the mists and let them take you to wherever the mists are going to take you at that point.
I think this would be a fun story to do, almost detective style stories where you meet up with a ghost and you try to solve their murder. What happened? How did they die?
Mm-hmm.
And not necessarily the Wilfred story, just any story.
Oh
You could
yeah.
really make majority story and create a D&D party that is made up of people who are detectives, and I mean, so you could really have great urban ghost detective stories in
Mm-hmm.
this that could all the way through as long as you wanted it to.
Oh
They
definitely.
did, and
And
I also think
then
this is a place to have we used trinkets back in chapter one.
mm-hmm.
There 100, 200, something like that, trinkets. You can have those laying around almost as clues. So, for as a DM, you could use those as a great way to, as a clue to something else. What does this do to, rather than just using for personal effects, you could actually, you open up a music box and inside is one of those trinkets, and how does that link to something else?
I apologize. Hold on one second. There we go. I booped a thing in OBS, but now it's fixed. We lost video there for a second.
Yeah.
My life. This is my life. These are my choices. I don't know what's going on. We're also like, I'm gonna have to look into my settings or something because we're just like losing a lot of. Like it was happening to me with my Final Fantasy streams over the weekend, but I apologize. We are dropping like so many frames. I don't know what's going on. I'm
Wondering if it.
gonna have to look into it, but I'll deal with that later. I mean, really, this is all about our voices anyway, so
And I'm on Wi-Fi, so it could well be that you're not getting me well because I'm not plugged right into my. Uh, Again, I'm on vacation, so.
you're on vacation. It's fine. Don't worry about it. No, I'll worry about it later. I'll fix it. I'll fix it up later. So I do apologize if you guys out there are having a hard time with the stream tonight. I'm having a hard time with the stream tonight. It is what it is. But yeah, so back to Morden. Of course, this is also the home realm plane spot for our dear friend Rudolf van Richten. This is his.
Does he grow up in Strahd?
He does actually.
Yeah.
He shows up in in Curse of Strahd under the pseudonym Rictavio. Spoiler alert.
Oh, okay.
But he does show up in Curse of Strahd. And actually there have been some people who kind of like really questioned the way that they wrote him in Curse of Strahd, because he was written as much more racist.
Oh.
Yeah. He was very, very, very racist towards the Vistani in the original printing of Curse of Strahd. I believe they have adjusted it for the for future printings, because that was one of the big complaints that came out of the last year, kind of when all of the talk came up around, it's like orcs and drow are the two big ones that everyone kind of talks about a lot as the problematique races in D&D, but the Vistani get it too. And of course the Vistani are stereotypes of the Romani people and the British travelers, which is definitely a big problem. Like, we as Americans don't realize it as much, but it's actually really, like, it's really bad for the Romani in Europe. Even still in Greece, they actually are facing forced sterilizations. And much like we've been doing with immigrants at the border, I'm not sure of the status of the story now, but there was a time where they were being, forced into camps again. So, yes. So the Vistani were one of those things that Wizards of the Coast has set out to revise and fix, because again, they're not often at the top of some people's lists, because again, especially as Americans, we don't realize it as much as, maybe, someone over in Europe would see it. But yeah, the Vistani have some problems, and we can get into that later, because the Vistani actually are mentioned in this chapter at the very end. But yeah, that was one of the problems, was just like Van Richten, aka Rictavio, in Curse of Strahd was like kill on sight to any Vistani.
Gosh.
Yeah. Was literally training a saber-toothed tiger to eat Vistani.
Oh.
Like, yeah, it was bad. It was terrible. And if I remember right, there was a document that was going around that was talking about the changes that were going to be made to the Curse of Strahd adventure in order to make it less racist. And
yeah.
that was one of it. I don't think they removed that entirely, but they definitely changed some wording.
Good.
Because, yeah, somehow that did not get through. I don't think they had a sensitivity reader at that time, but
right. And also, I would say that maybe some things have actually changed in just that short amount of time. That we, or at least with not that with the society, maybe Wizards of the Coast kind of eyes have been out a little bit more.
It's definitely one of those things that there are with his unfortunately there are still a lot of neckbeards in the community who push back against the inclusiveness and push back against the effort to try and make things less problematic. Unfortunately, we do kind of get some of those people who still are like, well, I don't see what the big problem is.
Yeah, one of them owns
and, yeah, and even though there's oodles and oodles and oodles of stuff out there for them to educate themselves on why it's a problem and why it does need to be fixed, and but they just refuse to listen. They refuse to listen. But fortunately, there is, obviously there is much more of an outpouring of support and of love and of trying to get the right voices amplified and trying to get more diverse creators into the system and into the program. So definitely, support your
sure.
support your smaller person of color D&D creators, because they create some really cool, really fun stuff, and they don't get as much love as some of the other people do, especially in these trying times.
Yeah, I don't know if you've been following the news about the Ernie Gygax and him buying TSR 3, TSR. He bought the copyright TSR and then just went on a whole rant on how he hated diversity and didn't understand why, and so much so that his brother, who owns Gen Con or runs Gen Con, has basically say he's not allowed here. He is no, everyone's banning him because he's just made stupid comments online, including so much to say that he kind of if he'd had a shotgun back when he was in high school, he would have gone on a school shooting rage. And I'm like, dude, shut up! And all his people surrounding him who were they're trying to rebuild TSR. They're like, dude, shut up! And then he comes on and goes, well, you just don't understand. This is all they're just attacking TSR because I'm like, no, they're attacking you because you're an idiot.
No, so, you are doing a dumb.
Yeah.
And not only are you doing a dumb, you are utilizing a corporate platform in order to do a dumb.
Yeah.
And not only that, like that definitely, to me, if I were his family members, I would definitely be probably trying to get some sort of mental health check going on, because that's not just being dumb, that's concerning.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, what he's doing that's not uncommon for some people. That's normal thinking to them, and it's wrong. The world's changing, and that's why there's such a backlash, because the world is changing, and they don't like it.
The world is changing, and some of the old white boys are scared that the people who are coming up and are just saying, hey, I would like to exist in this society without being killed on sight, please.
Yeah.
For some reason, they interpret that as basically, oh no, the evils that I have enacted throughout my life on various people are now going to be enacted upon me, and so therefore I have to scramble for any scrap of power in order to keep myself from, it's like that's also one of the things they say about like the gay panic defense. The whole I killed him because he was gay and I was afraid he was going to come on to me. It's like, okay, well, the potential reason why people, why these assholes use that defense is like, oh, so you're scared a gay man is going to treat you the same way you treat a cis woman.
Yeah.
And it's
yes, and but yeah, and yes, but it's not, and they're also concerned is the fact that they can't be in power in the center of the universe anymore. And it's like, no, you can't.
No,
you can't.
You can't.
There are 7 billion people on this planet, and they all have a right to exist and live how they want to live. And you have no right to tell them how they should or should not live.
Yep.
So
Again,
screw you. We're moving on.
your what is it? Your right to throw a punch ends at my face.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
as soon as your actions hurt others, then yes, your actions are going to be called into question.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And we live. I think it was I was going to say Jordy LaForge, LeVar Burton, who said it best. He said, "We don't live in a cancel culture. We live in a consequence culture. There are now consequences for your actions. Sorry, dudes. That's how it works now, and that's
whoopsies.
how there should have always been consequences." And I thought I remember hearing somebody else when talking about, just 20 or 30 years ago when, you know, saying things like anti-gay things, were accept. They were accepted. And it's like, wait a minute. And he corrected himself. And he said, wait a minute. They were never acceptable. They were just allowed by society. It was never appropriate to say these things. It's never been appropriate to do and say these things that people nowadays think they should. Why can't I say what I used to? Well, because you've never been able to say it. You should never have said it. And until
It
we
was it was still technically it was always oppression in the first place. Not even
yeah,
technically. It was always oppression in the first place. Nowadays it's just easier for the oppressed to take their oppressors to task. I mean, we're still working on it. We've got a long way to go, but we are
but yeah,
definitely in a better place than where we once were. So,
again, there are consequences for your actions, so which is fabulous. I think that should be yes.
it's great.
Yeah. All right.
Anyways, now that we've gone off on that wonderful tangent, but it's always the best tangent to go off on. But no, I definitely feel like they have done some fixes and have made Rudolph von Richten's character make more sense now. Which again is something he's actually we can talk about him a little more at the end of this chapter. I really liked the fact that in this section on Mordant, they did talk about how to build and create a good ghost story. Because they do have there's a whole section in this talking about how to build a haunting and how to build something that is going to be meaningful for your players and not just random spoopy ghost.
Ooh.
That's my random spoopy ghost dance. So, of course, that's my random dance for a lot of things. So, and I'm probably gonna butcher this name, but Richten.
Oh, Rishmulu.
Because like I want to say it French, because like everything else in that chapter, like all the names are French in the chapter. Because it's Mademoiselle Jacqueline Renier.
Yeah, it's Rishmulo is the way I think.
Richmulo.
Um,
I don't know. We'll workshop it.
Yeah, but
Rat Town.
Yeah. Speaking of consequences for your actions,
Speaking of consequences for your actions and current events,
this idea of a constant plague that comes in and out is fantastic.
It's a little too close to home for me, dude. I don't know about you.
That's true. It's like I'm watching Sweet Tooth right now, which is all about a plague that basically kills the majority of the world. And it's like, boy, the good thing this wasn't going on. I didn't watch this last year because I don't know if I would be able to.
I can't watch like any like disease plague media right now. I'm just like, nope, no thank you. I've dealt with that enough in my personal life. The trauma is still too close. No thank you. So I don't foresee myself running any adventures in this particular domain for quite some time. But um, yeah, no, I do particularly like the were rat superiority movement.
Like, what happens if were-rats take over a domain? Here you go. Disease and plague everywhere. All right.
Just plague everywhere, and just but say Jacqueline, her whole story of how she comes to power, you know, her whole like, oh, I'm gonna get into this like super special club for the ruling elite, only to find out, oh, it's the were rats living under the city. Then eventually utilizing just the sheer numbers and power of the were rats to overtake the rest of the nobility, and, you know, kill everybody using um a chemically created plague.
Hmm.
That doesn't hit close to home.
Now, I did like the fact there were mechanics in here for dealing with the gnawing thread. It's really good mechanics for DMs on dealing with any kind of uh, disease type of situation. Some really good mechanics on the different stages. So I thought even if you didn't use this, if you were doing any kind of a situation where there's an illness, there's something going on, you could really use these very well as a good template for how to deal with this kind of sickness, any kind of sickness.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
really enjoyed that.
how to create and run your own plague right here.
Oh, we got the plague here. Oh no.
Oh no, it's the plague. It's the
It,
known
it's that ding dang old plague, eh? Oh
ding
no.
dong plague. It's the known plague, eh? Yeah, you know. Ugh. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. Like I'm fond of I'm fond of the idea, and I'm fond of the concept. I'm just, I don't know. I'm just like, I'm over this. I'm over
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, and now as I was trying to explain to Kimberly when the COVID first happened, I've read and seen so much pop culture that had a plague of some kind that basically wiped out its going all the way back to reading The Stand by Stephen King. That I really thought I'm going to work every day going, this is it, folks. We're actually living it. This is Captain Trips. This is name your poison. This is the end of society right now. I'm really glad that it did not turn out to be as bad as Captain Trips.
I mean,
But
in theory,
yeah,
in
I
theory,
was prepared.
we're still working on that, man.
I was prepared for something that was going to be just society ending type of thing, and fortunately, it was not quite that bad. I think it was a society changer, which is really kind of interesting.
Oh,
Uh,
definitely. You don't.
our eyes have been to so much issues with work, with racial disparities, um, that it's been an eye opener for people. Maybe we'll walk out of 2020 going, so much's got to change that maybe 2020 turns out to be the best year because it's the year that forced everyone to open their eyes and go, you know what? This society is not perfect in any way, shape, or form, and it's time to change. So, if there's anything good that would come out of 2020, hopefully it's that. We need to all figure out how to the lower class people, the poor, the downtrodden, people of different races. We've got to deal with this problem, and hopefully, we're coming out of it going, this is an issue. I don't know. Only time will tell that one, but
We'll we'll find out. I mean, it's historic from looking at a historical standpoint. And this is where most of like the fantasy genre kind of gets it wrong, is in really in times like this, and after you know after you lose a whole bunch of people to whatever, whether it's natural disaster, sickness, so on and so forth, but especially after plague years. That is historically the time when the peasantry rise up and
Mm.
demand their fair share and actually cause change. The reason, like one of the reasons why the power of the European monarchy started to really become undermined was because of the Black Death, because it made the peasantry that much more valuable, because
Yeah.
so many people and so many lower class people had died. So yeah, you don't have plagues where you lose a crap ton of people and the current power structure stays the way it is. You know,
Right.
in fact, it's quite the opposite. It's a shakeup, and that's definitely one thing that a lot of, just a lot of fans. And this is here's going to be my soapbox and my other rant. So much fantasy relies on just taking a dump on the peasantry. Like think about like especially like the Game of Thrones school of thinking. Like the George R. R. Martin, everyone's constantly in warfare. No. No. No, it's not historically a lot of fight, 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 kill, 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 kill. Oh, the peasantry, they don't matter. Okay, well, at that point, like, that's how you get peasant revolts. Okay?
Yeah.
If that's remaining a constant factor, then you would be seeing a lot more peasant revolts.
Right.
And those actually do tend to be successful
Mm-hmm.
because in those societies, who's working the land? The peasantry. Where is the food coming from?
The
The
peasantry, yeah.
peasantry.
Working for you, yes. The
Yeah.
working class.
Yeah, so peasant revolts actually did tend to be fairly successful throughout history because, it's all about technically who actually controls the resources. Technically the working class who actually manufacture the resources. It's just with, the 50, 60, actually I think pushing it probably into 70 some odd years now of, especially in the United States, the dismantling of the system and the push away from collectivism, the demonization of the union,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
in this pre-industrial society. We're all just temporary displaced millionaires, right? Um, y'all didn't know you were gonna get this kind of rant tonight, but this is where it's going. Just like this is my soapbox. This is the hill I will die on. And that's the one thing that I see it as a constant thing in all of these like domains is, and I get it, like in the sense of the story it makes sense because yes, you want the adventurers to come in and be the heroes, but no, I need more peasant revolts in my D&D, dang it.
We need to have that. Yes. The social comedy of the working class actually stepping forward and actually doing something, which hopefully start to happen in this side. So, anyway, so
anyways, moving on before I start writing the Kobold Communist Manifesto. So
love the idea of the kobolds revolt.
the kobolds will unionize and we will rise up. First it will be the kobolds, and then the goblins shall join us, and then we shall convince the orcs, and then the drow, and it's all over!
Yes, I love it. I'm all for this idea. Especially kobolds. I love kobolds. Okay, so let's talk about Tempest.
Tempest.
Um, this is incredibly disturbing in a very good way. It is so creepy. Mother Lorinda is fabulous. Her backstory is so good. Talk to us about.
Yeah, I think like hags in general are very underused. Like,
Yeah.
hags are great. I love hags. I think they're fantastic. So to see one that really has kind of come into her own in this very dark, this dark fairy tale, is such a joy to me, and such a, I don't know what it is. You gotta love a good old fashioned monstrous fertility cult.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Which, those have really been making a comeback in modern horror media. I mean, between Midsommar and
Mhm.
then there was, oh gosh, what was the one? It's on Netflix. I can't remember if it's like The Rite or The Ritual or something, but literally it's like four backpackers getting lost in the woods in Norway and coming across, a cult that worships a Jotun, and, them consequently getting sacrificed to said Jotun.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, there's just been a little bit, like, I feel like there's been just a little bit of a renaissance in this genre as of late. um, but yeah, I mean, that's really what Tempest, is the um, just, this cult atmosphere where you come in and, oh, it's so wonderful to have ya, come here, have some dinner, stay with us. And then, the inevitable fattening up
Yeah.
before the sacrifice to the daughter, and it's just, ooh,
Yeah.
I like it. I
Yeah.
like it a lot.
Yeah. Great story. I think there's a lot of things you could do with this, and a really good domain. Internet, just in and of itself, the entire place, you could really have a great time uh, with almost this Eastern European traveling into forests and mountains that you could really have a great several adventures in this. Besides just the Mother Lorinda story.
Yes, I was actually I was kind of thinking about it, because you do also have that undercurrent of the Fae in this realm,
Mm.
where you actually have a whole Fae society under Mount Iraq, that, all of these other towns and locations, um, basically, have kind of been pretty much wiped off the map because of the Dark Fae. Wild Hunt.
Yeah,
Like, you could have a really fun Wild Hunt themed, like, proper Wild Hunt, proper Samhain, or
yeah,
proper Samhain, um,
yeah.
Wild
With your horn
Hunt.
type of the horns, yes, yeah. It'd be great, and you could have a lot of fun with it. I think in this kind of realm.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you are somebody who, like, really dives into and really kind of looks at some of the um, older Fae lore and Fae mythology. This is a great Tempest is a great domain to play with that kind of stuff, because
Yeah,
that's basically what it is.
yeah,
What she? Yeah, druids. Yeah, just run it with druids. Pack it with druids. Pack it with as many Fae creatures as you possibly can. You're gonna have a rip roaring good time.
and actually go back to you could actually go back to what your druids originally were, with the old Celtic druid. With again your triple goddess, your horned god, you could really have a lot of fun with that one in this type of situation. And because we talk about Fae, wild, and with your unseelie and your seelie courts, this could really, you could mix a lot of your unseelie courts, and you got your hags, mix a lot of your unseelie court into this, and really just have a lot of fun with it. And especially go back, yeah, you're right, go back to your Celtic mythos, your Indo-European myths that you could really, even to Germanic and Norse, storylines that you could really this could be a lot of fun.
And that's really, I mean, at least for me, like that's really where folk horror is at its best and at its strongest is when you are taking those older stories and really pushing them to their limit and seeing like where you go, because you know once you kind of get into those more primal modes of thinking, then you know it's fascinating. It's just fascinating to see.
It's the fear of what's hidden behind the forests and in the caves and because we didn't know. And when you take men who and even if some parts of society had advanced, the peasantry and they had no idea. Just going off the trail, that that was death. And so yeah, it's a great. You could really play with that a lot in this.
Yeah, that very very kind of primal um primal fears and just primal, you know, that thought process of, you know, really well and truly civilization in and of itself is kind of in its infancy and in its it's very fragile, because that's really kind of where it comes at with, you know, a lot of early thinking, a lot of early mythoses is that, you know, we are one bad harvest away from
Yeah,
destruction. Like we are one bad harvest, we are one bad summer away from destruction. And but if we find a way to appease the land and appease the mystical powers that these beings represent, then we can stave off destruction for one more season. And that's where folk horror is at its best and at its strongest.
yeah, you're right, and that's really what this is about. Is appeasing the gods to try to survive, and of course, one of the major way to survive is through your offspring.
And that well, and that's another thing too about this is that, you know, one of the things that they in the domain, it talks about how it is difficult, very very difficult for these people to have children, and a vast majority of the children that are present here are hexbloods. So they
Yeah,
are children that have been gifted by the mother, by this hag. That's something else that's, you know, again, you can pick at those threads and really play with that with the whole changeling child mythos. So,
yes, yeah, and you could have an entire party that is hexbloods and trying to figure out who they are. And again, this is one of those that you could conceivably run an entire campaign without leaving the domain. I think it's one of my favorites because of that. Of course, it's almost how I judged almost anyone. Yes, there were some that I judged. Hey, I'd really like to visit there, but for the most part, how could I run an entire adventure with characters from this domain? Run an entire 0 through 20, or 0 through a high level campaign, and this is one of those. You could get all the way through this without ever getting bored, and your players ever getting bored.
yeah.
They'd be scared, and you could unveil. There's so much that you could unveil to them. Nothing's better than it's like the old. I've always kind of disliked the idea of everybody meets in a tavern. What I rather have is start off with you are all shipwrecked on an island. You have nothing. You are all in jail. You have nothing. You don't know how you got there. You're all in jail. You've all
The
woken up on.
as sometimes we jokingly call that the Elder Scrolls start.
Oh, is it? I
Yeah,
just
the
can't
Elder
remember.
Scrolls. The Elder Scrolls always start you off. You're a prisoner. Yeah, you're a prisoner of some sort. So every single Elder Scrolls game starts with you as a prisoner going into a new land and having to start from scratch. So
And it's even but again, even if it's not uh, just exactly that, but the idea that you, you
You want
don't
to
know.
start from nothing, and you want to start from nothing and go to like go from there.
Yeah, and allow the DM to unveil these mysteries,
Mm-hmm.
and love that idea that you get surprised. You turn a corner, it's like, oh, that's what this society is all about. We had no idea, and so it just really, you've got so much that you can build in this one, that you could spend an entire campaign unveiling these mysteries that would just be phenomenal. So that's why I really enjoyed this one a lot.
Mm-hmm. Well, continuing with the theme of very primal fears, Valachan.
Yeah, the Mesoamerican. Uh,
Mesoamerican ish. I can see a few different influences here, but um, definitely, and I wouldn't even necessarily say Mesoamerican. I would definitely say South American. Because like it's definitely much more like Amazonian jungle to me.
True, true. Yes, you're right. It is actually more rainforest type of situation than it is South Central America. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think about that too, because I looked up, I was like, because my first thought was South American, but it mentions Mesoamerican names. So I looked at Mesoamerica because I thought it was basically South Central America, and I am correct. It is, and you're like, yeah, this doesn't. Although that's kind of the naming situation. Yeah, we're really talking more Brazil. We're talking the Amazonian rainforest. Yeah. Um,
I mean,
well,
there's technically, technically there's like a smidge of overlap, especially kind of if you're in Brazil, but but I say Mesoamerica is more kind of about the range from would be about Texas technically. So from Texas down through the Panama area, so kind of that central kind of central coastal, and then kind of eking a little bit into Brazil, Peru, um, but yeah, no, Valachan to me reads very like either Amazonian jungle or like dark heart of Africa type of thing, but much more. I would say like much more Amazonian jungle. They might be pulling names from Central American just because it's easier to find names from those cultures.
that might be.
Especially, especially if you start looking into Mayan, because Mayan is kind of close to that area. Um, hashtag that's where I get most of my Dragonborn names for Red Dirt. So is I go looking for Mayan, um, but yeah, and I like how it's very much this kind of reclamation story, because you do have the hints about the original ruler of this
Yes,
particular domain. Um, where is his name? Where is his name? Von Kharkov.
yes. The White Hunter.
Yes, Ulrich von Kharkov, the white hunter who comes in and builds his hunting lodge and decides to hunt the natives for fun, and then the native girl being like, "No, screw you, I'm gonna take you down," but finding out that in order to actually save her people, she has to play the game.
Yes.
She has to become that which she hates
Yeah. I love.
and
That's
continue
so
the cycle.
great.
Ugh,
Yeah,
it's
that is
so
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 great.
heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's what I basically wrote down in my notes. It's a great twist on overthrowing the white man only to become the oppressor you fought against. And I mean,
I
it,
think, yeah, and it's definitely like I feel like she's not, and like she's kind of trying to play it in the way where she's not so much the oppressor, 'Cause she definitely does it. She does it in her own way and
Yes.
following her own. She has her own code and her own moral thing where instead of just hunting wholesale, it's like, yeah, technically I am gonna give you a chance. Like you have a chance, but if you underestimate me, then I am going to take you down.
But it's a great twist. And I love it. And um,
Such a good twist.
this entire overland adventures in this area. I'm so much wrong chapter. Being able to uh, go. I mean, you never run out of places to go in this land.
Mm-mm.
Map is just phenomenal to where you can just go anywhere, and there are adventures all over the place. I mean, like, and I'm a big fan of maps. And one I did actually enjoy probably the most about this book was looking at all the maps. I think Mike Schley and a couple of others that are incredible artists that just amazing stuff.
Mike Schley is like, he is my hero. Like, I whenever I see Mike Schley maps in one of the hardcover books, I'm just like, yes, we're in for a
Yeah.
good time, kids. Because he did pretty much almost all of the maps for Out of the Abyss, which I think are some of the best. He has available prints of his Menzo Branson map that I want to buy and put up on my wall. I've got some open space over there that I would like to have a big Menzo Branson, because as we all know, I'm drow trash.
About you, by the way, we were looking at Pez dispensers. I was like, there should be a Driz Pez, and I would get it to Ash. I would get it to Ash, and I would say, Driz, this is for you, so you can pop off his head and he can't froze.
No, you guys, I keep telling you guys, no, I want Dritz to be happy.
Oh, okay.
Like, I think after everything he's been through, like, he deserves just to go off to have like a little farm somewhere with Caddy Bree, and like he and Caddy Bree can, just live out their life together, and have like 10 kids. It's fine. He just needs to have a good life with his emotional support panther.
Yes.
No, Jarlaxle is my jam.
Or it was Jarlaxle. Yeah.
We've talked about this numerous times. Like, Jarlaxle is my boy. I would.
Well, that's why I only said it because you could, like I said, you could pop off Driz's head and eat candy out of his throat. I thought that'd be kind of funny. Like, what'd you do that? Driz. Anyway, so back to Valachan.
Back to the domains of dread.
Yeah. Yeah, so many opportunities for overlaid adventuring here that you'd never run out of spaces. The map that's in here, talking about the different areas, the Sleepless Forest, the Ark of the Eclipse, the wreck of the Rat King. I mean,
yeah, I love how and I love how there's so many, like, there's a bunch of different locations on the map that they don't actually give like any real description for. So like the wreck of the Rat King and the wreck of the what is it, the Rotwald. Like,
yeah.
They don't tell you what those are. So that just in and of itself gives you inspiration as a DM to go in and build out what that is.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
So therefore everyone's Valakin will be completely different.
Yes, you'll never play the same way in any of the, and that's what makes D&D great. That's what I think that's, again, what makes this book great, is it gives you all these ideas, but you don't necessarily, you can go anywhere you want and play with however you want. So even if you're playing with the same DM, same players, Valor Chain would be totally different every time, and it would be so much fun to be able to do that. But of course, I also love the idea of a displacer beast roaming around the forest. That's awesome. I
Just
love the
packs
displacer
of
beast.
displacer beasts. Just
Yeah, it was really it's a fun domain that I
Mhm.
think you could really, without even having to touch on. Much like I thought um, the DDAL adventures did with Strahd with Barovia, where you have all these adventures, and also the Strahd is this overarching figure, never actually involved in the actual storyline. So you could have this great storyline going on that has this the Dark Lord's there, the presence is there, without actually having to deal with the Dark Lord, without actually having to do that storyline. You could go 0 through 20 without ever having to deal with that Dark Lord story, just because there's so much in this world that you could play with.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. Okay, so that actually brings us to the end of the fully fleshed out domains of dread. Um, I don't particularly want to like go through the other domains like domain like we did. Just because there's so many of them because they include a whole bunch of little mini domains, like is the best way to describe them. And they're more what I would describe as like ideas of domains rather than, obviously the fully fleshed out. Because you don't have to have a fully fleshed out domain. And
Yeah.
I like this too because it's just enough to tickle the gray matter
Yes.
and to get you as the dungeon master inspired to, you know, kind of take these little domains as a template and then figure out like what you want to do with them. I actually just want to point out two that I really was really fond of, enough to actually maybe start writing a little mini adventure or something. Um, so first off, the one like the ones that really like touched home for me, were Sire 1313, the Morning Rail.
Yes.
I love that one. I'm probably gonna steal that one for Red Dirt.
Yeah. You
um,
should. So good.
it's so good. I'm probably gonna steal that one for Red Dirt. I love the concept. I want to play with that. The ghost train. I want to play with that. Um, Chlor was the other one that I was really kind of tickled my gray matter a lot. That one is the end of all worlds.
Yes.
Um, I don't know why that just kind of like my gray matter started tickling. I'm like, you could do some really fun things with like Gith Yankee um,
Mm.
in that one. Um, and the other one that really tickled my gray matter was Sania, the uh, the theater from the reality manipulating theater that was originally
Yeah.
part of Dementliu and then got sucked into its own domain because Lamont Ledon Lamont Sedam Justi decided to do a terrible.
Yes.
And I'm gonna give you guys a teaser because like again this like that tickled my brain matter, like that just hit just right. Because but say Michael, you're a theater guy,
Yeah. Oh yeah. And a haunted theater is yes.
so you're familiar with the concept of a ghost light, right?
Oh yes.
Okay.
Yes. Very.
Okay, so let me set this scene for you, right? So you're an adventurer and you're walking down a alleyway. You hear the cobblestones under your feet, and all of a sudden you see this old, somewhat decrepit, boarded up theater.
Hmm.
You think to yourself, there might be something interesting in there. You see, the old posters talking about the previous shows that were going on in this theater. Hey, there might be some, maybe you're even a bard. There might be some cool costumes that you can take.
Right.
So you push open the door, and you go inside, and you walk through the quiet, dusty front of the house. Part back the curtains, and you still see shining on the stage the ghost light. And as your attention is drawn to this ghost light, you just hear a voice. Ah, you are here for the audition?
Oh, yes.
There you go. So there you go, kids. That's your freebie game starter for your Sania campaign. Run it. Tell me how it goes.
I think it's good. My two that I absolutely love are three. I Sire 1313 without a doubt. Then I recently ran a I ran a Ebron campaign for my Friday night group, and they go into the Mournland, and as they are traveling, and I did this last summer, so long before as they're traveling around these old train tracks with a slog of walking and walking, and all of a sudden they realize they're moving forward still, but they're not actually walking. They're now on this ghost train. So I actually created this idea of a ghost train last year, and they had to get, but unlike this one where you have to get to the back to find the Dread Lord, this was going forward to find this mummy lord that was at the beginning of the train, who was the engineer, the conductor was. Yeah.
Nice.
So, love that one. Love Markovia, the depraved, the sapient, the island of Dr. Moreau style. Beautiful. So many things you could do with monsters as a DM. You could really have a lot of fun with monsters.
Play around with the lycanthropes.
Yes, exactly. And then O'Dare, because Pinocchio on LSD. Yeah. What happens when the carionets come out at night? Oh, spooky as all. My goodness. That's just horrifying. Ventriloquist dummies and are already frightening enough. The fact that they were actually coming to life and, yeah.
Coming to life and attacking all the adults of the town, leaving behind the children.
Yeah. That was a great world. So those are my three that I would definitely want to see run. Those are three that I would rather. It'd be cool to DM, but it'd be even more fun, I think, to play in.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes that's the thing, is that, like, you're reading through it sometimes, and it's like, I don't really want to run this adventure, but it would be hella fun to play it. So I just need to find someone who's willing to run it.
Yeah, and that's also why. And that's also why I'm hoping that there's so many. You talk about getting the gray matter flowing. I'm really hoping in the next few months that DM's Quest or DM's Guild starts, having all these adventures that people are writing that we can just run, because I know that there's other DMs out there, other creators out there who's they're thinking these up as well. So hopefully there are more people out there that will start writing these things that we can start playing in their world as well.
Oh yeah, and that's always the fun thing, to kind of see what concepts people latch onto, and to see what, how different stories inspire different people to write different things. The same story inspires different people to write different things. So it's always really fun to see what people, what people just pull out of their brain. There's actually not much more to chapter 3, so I don't know if you just want to run a little bit longer today and just close it out, and that way we can move on, or.
What is the next chapter? I didn't take any notes for the next part of this chapter. I got through the domain. What are we talking about? The Travelers in the Mist?
Yes, it would be the Travelers in the Mists.
Or we talk about the song. Let's wait till next week to talk about this, because I want to talk and the Travelers and Mist Wander, because this is something that I think could build as to a full campaign is being Mist Travelers. So let's talk about this next week.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, that is it for us tonight, guys, because we are at a little over an hour. Again, apologize for some of the technical difficulties with the stream tonight. I'm going to be looking into some things over the next week.
And it also might be my fault because I'm running on Wi-Fi. So
We'll figure.
Hopefully,
yeah.
But I'm no longer.
We'll get it figured out, folks. Let's say next week Michael will be back from vacation, and he'll be back with our internets will be closer, and maybe the tubes won't get as mixed up. But well, thank you guys so much for coming. Thank you so much for watching. As always, we heavily invite you to check out Red Dirt D&D on your favorite podcasting app, where every week there is a brand spanking new episode where shenanigans happen. We just celebrated our 50th episode not too long ago. Hooray. And we will be celebrating our first anniversary coming up next month. So exciting times. Keep an eye on our Twitter and our Facebook, because we may or may not be planning some special things for that first anniversary. The paper anniversary, I am told. So I'm getting everybody a character sheet.
Awesome.
Well, as always, I'm Ash King.
I'm Michael Cross.
And you have been listening to A&M Talk D&D. Stay safe out there, guys. As always, if you see a random thick mist starting to come in, roll for initiative.
Awesome.
Bye.